All right. Hi, everyone who's coming on Facebook and on, here we go. Looks like we're happening on Facebook. Yes. Okay. So welcome to those of you who are here on Zoom and to those of you who are here on Facebook Live and those who are watching this recording later on. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I'm delighted to welcome you here to, this is a series of webinars that I've been doing on the superpowers of the human design types. Today is the fourth in a series of 5 webinars, and today we're going to be talking about manifestors. It's really interesting about manifestors. I remember listening to, I did quite a few audio trainings with Ra when I first came to human design, and Ra is the man who received the system and then developed it and then taught it for 20 odd years. He's no longer with us on the planet. I'm sure he's with us in the cosmos somehow. But I remember him, and he was an ego manifester, and I'll be talking a little bit later about what it means to be an ego manifester. And he said that manifestors very rarely do any personal growth work, and that it would be very rare for a manifestor to come and actually do any work with human design, which I find to be fascinating. So if you're a manifestor and you're here either live or if you're listening in the future, good for you for taking the time to do some personal growth work, to get to know yourself a little bit better, to dive in and really kind of unpack what it is that you have to offer. And for those who have manifestors in your life, because we pretty much all have manifestors in our life, even though they're a relatively small portion of the population, it's really good for those of us who are not manifestors to come to get to know them and to understand what's valuable about them and what we learn from them and how we can partner with them. My last life partner is a manifestor, and if I had known about what it meant to be a manifestor, and also if I had known what it meant to be a generator, and then to put our two designs together, and if I had understood that at the time, we would have gotten along a lot better. And I think he would have understood me better, I would have understood him better, and we could have really worked on our relationship in a different way than we were able to, not understanding human design. And so I just want to say that, because manifestors sometimes can be kind of annoying simply because they like to do what they want to do. And they are the only type that is designed to initiate, bless their hearts. We've all been taught to initiate, but it turns out only 8 to 9% of the population is actually designed to initiate. So I want to just invite those of you who are here on Zoom to go ahead and put your name and where you're coming in from and your type, if you know your type, in the chat. And I see people are coming in on Facebook, and so I invite you to do that as well. I always like to have a sense of who's here. And if you can also, it also helps me know that you can hear me for sure. So if you can just say, yes, I can hear you, coming through loud and clear, that's also a good check for me. Yes, okay, great. So hello, Robin from Colorado, who's a manifestor. And hello, Shelly. And Shelly, I don't know if you're a manifestor or not, but you're saying that you've been doing personal growth work for most of your life. Yeah, Bill, that's great if you're a manifestor and you're doing that. So there's a bunch more of you here on Zoom. So I encourage you to say hi and put in your name and when you're coming in from, and also if you're what your type is. So that's great. One of the things I have found, and I really want to encourage all of us, is I found that people tend to show up when it's their, like the manifestors show up for their training, and then the generators show up for the manifesting generators. Last week we had projectors, and we had a whole lot of projectors on. And I understand that impulse. It's like, I want to know more about myself. But one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to go and listen to and watch the ones about that are not your type, because we're in the world with each other, and we are part of the beauty of human design is the way that it teaches us how to appreciate each other, how to support each other, what are kind of I'll use the word appropriate expectations that we can have of each other. What are things that maybe we thought were someone being inconsiderate or self-centered? I think manifestors get that a lot, where it's their type. I mean, it's their energy. It's how they're designed to actually operate in the world, right? Or projectors, we talked about this last time, are not designed to mostly work 30, 40-hour work weeks. I mean, they're just not designed to do that. And manifestors are not designed to do the work of the world. That's what we generators are here for. And generators can get resentful about that if we don't understand how the different types work and how we can work together. So one of the things I said in my email about today is that manifestors can be incredibly great allies and partners with us in a variety of different things. If you're creating, I had a manifestor who is a business partner. We made a really great team as business partners. And so you want to understand the different types so that you know who's great for you to partner with, who's not so great for you to partner with, and to really understand the characteristics of each other. Okay. Hi, Sharon is coming in from California, and Toby. Hi, Toby, wherever you're coming in from. And hi, Sunny. Okay, great. All right. So if you're just joining us, I see we've had some more people join us. Please do go ahead and say hello. Those of you, hi on Facebook. Deirdre's here is a generator from Oakland, and Deborah is a manifestor, and Moni is here from Chicago, who's an ego projector. No, we don't have ego projectors. Only ego manifestors. If you had the will center going to the throat, then you'd be a manifestor. Maybe you just mean you have your will center defined and you're thinking that makes you an ego projector. Okay, I get that. I just don't usually talk about it that way. All right, very good. So welcome everyone. I do want to let you know that for just a brief period of time, I have opened my Activate Your Superpowers class, and I will let you know more about it towards the end of the session today. There is a special bonus that is available only through Sunday. I did extend it. It was supposed to be through today, but we had technical difficulties over the weekend, which is when I was meaning to send out some promotions about it. So sorry, my brain all of a sudden just went. So I decided to go ahead and extend it until Sunday. So you can get $200 off the regular registration fee, and it brings it down to $197. And it's a great class. It's 10 sessions. It leads you through the foundational aspects of human design, really focused on your superpowers. So you get things like your character and your foolproof way of making decisions, and your life purpose, and a whole bunch of different things. And I will be collecting this series of webinars that I'm doing here and adding those, so that those will be a bonus that'll be right there with the rest of your course as well. Anyway, I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Okay, so Carol Ann says she's not seeing comments. Oh, let me remind you all, when you're putting comments in the chat, please select not just all panelists, but all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, I'm the only person who will see them. Thank you, Carol Ann, for mentioning that. I usually mention at the beginning and I forgot. All right, very good. Yes, Moni, my apologies. Okay. Anything else here? Barbara says, my son and wife are both manifestors, and their little daughters are both generators. Have to say the parents are pretty tired right now, working from home. Yeah, okay, I totally hear you. Yeah, she's coming in from Canada. Yeah, well, if you're a manifestor and you have generator kids, that could potentially be a lot for you. So we Uh, yeah, will to the heart. Yeah. I mean, it could be, I mean, you could have the will going to the emotional solar plexus. You just can't have a motor to the throat. Okay, and that's what part what we're going to talk about today. All right. So, all right. So please do include your comments in the chat, and do keep your questions. So we'll definitely have time to talk about questions towards the end today. Always like to have a lot of interaction when we do this today. All right. The other thing is I would love to get your ahas at the end, because that helps you to kind of pull together your thoughts. And then also to, it's helpful for me to know what you got that was valuable for you. So, all right, so let's take a look at the slides. All right. Oops, we're not projector. I forgot to update that slide. All right, we're definitely in Manifestor territory today. Okay, so this is the course I was telling you about, and let me just put the, let's see, here's the chat. I'm just gonna put this in the chat for you in case you want to go take a look at it now. So it's sovereigntybydesign.com, which is my website. And then you also can just find this if you navigate to my site and look up for courses. There you go. All right, it's there in the chat. All right, so we'll come back to that. So let's just enjoy the mandala for a second, remembering that all of us have the entire chart. And so even though we have our different types, even though we have our different definitions and our openness and all of that, we all have access to all of the energies of the chart. And we actually, as we go through the year, all of the different gates, which is what this is, all of the different gates get lit up by the sun through the course of the year. Okay, so we all have access to these energies when the sun is in that gate. So we'll be feeling that energy, even though it may not be defined in our chart. Okay, so just know that that's the case, because sometimes people really get fixated on what they think they don't have, and it's just not accurate. Okay, so manifestors are defined by a motor to the throat and an undefined sacral. So let's just, as a review, anyone who has a defined sacral is going to be a generator, either a pure generator or manifesting generator. Okay. And anyone who has a motor to the throat is going to have manifesting energy. So manifesting generators also have a motor to the throat, like manifestors. Manifestors have a motor to the throat and no defined sacral. Okay. So this is how these types are defined. And I will talk a little bit more about what motor to the throat means, okay? But the main thing to get here is that when you have a motor to the throat, you have this manifesting energy. So let's just talk about the throat for a second, okay? So the throat is here, right? And the throat is not a motor, but it's often called a gearbox. And basically what that means is that energy is moving in and out of the throat. And what my teacher likes to say is that if human design were a game, the object of the game would be to get energy to the throat, okay, to get energy to the throat, and particularly to get a motor to the throat, because the motors are the most powerful engines in the chart, right? They are the engines of the chart. So actually, let's go ahead and take a look at the motors. So the sacral is the most powerful engine in the chart, okay? That's why if you have that defined, that makes you a generator, and it kind of trumps anything else about your design. If you've got that, it's very, very defining for you, for how your energy is, how you interact with the world. It determines your strategy. It determines your authority. So even if you have other things going, like this piece we were just talking about the ego projector, right? Basically, that means that you've got this will center defined. Okay. And so that you're going to have that will center defined, but projectors, again, don't have the sacral defined. So that's a powerful motor that you have. And it's not going to the throat, because otherwise that would make you into a manifestor, but it's still a powerful energy for you to have. Okay. And you can have 3 motor projectors, just like you can have 3 motor manifestors. I think we have one of the examples I have for you is a 3 motor manifestor. They just can't have this center defined. I have seen generators who have all 4 of these defined, and people like that really should have a huge amount of energy, because these are all powerful engines in the chart. They are a little bit different from each other, and that's going to impact how the manifestors, both how their authority works and also how their energy works, how much energy they're going to have. Because manifestors, just like projectors and just like all non-sacral beings, need to be aware of how much energy they're putting out, because they can have a lot of energy because they do have a motor to the throat. So they do have a drive there. And if they're around generators, which probably they are, because most people are generators, 70% of the population are generators, then they can pick up that sacral energy and amplify it, which can give them a huge amount of energy. I have a friend who's an ego manifestor who worked in a nonprofit for years, and he said he always had more energy than anyone else. And he used to work like 60-hour weeks, and because he was in an office with all these people picking up all that generator energy and amplifying it. Well, towards the end of his 40s, he got chronic fatigue, and spent most of his time, for about 3 years, in bed. And that's what can happen to a manifestor, depending on how many motors they have defined, and depending on how they take care of themselves. And so I always say to manifestors when I am doing readings for them, and I had one, I actually have her chart in here, one manifestor who was a client of mine, and she has 2 motors to the throat, actually not just 1, but 2. And she has a tremendous amount of energy, and she's in her early 40s. And I just said, it's great, and start building the habit now of resting and not just pushing yourself all the time, because you can do it now, but it will run out. And the truth is, it'll run out for anybody if we're working against our design. It happened to me, even though I'm a generator. But it's even more the case for manifestors, because they do not have this engine here, right? And the will center, if the manifestor has the will center, their ego manifestor, then the will center it works, it uses willpower in order to work, but then to rest. It needs to rest. It's not an inexhaustible amount of energy, the way that the sacral is. The emotional solar plexus is going to have waves of energy. It's just its nature. It has waves. And so it's not on all the time like the sacral. And then the root, which is the other center, the other motor that the manifestors can have an on-off pulse. On, off, on, off, on, off. So the manifestor really needs to start to learn to feel, right, okay, how is my energy? Have I depleted myself? Is my will center depleted? I really need to put more deposits into my energy bank, right? I've made all the withdrawals that I can, or I feel like I've done, and I don't want to get really tired, so I'm going to put in some deposits already. Or knowing what your wave is, if you're emotional, or feeling that on-off pulse of the root. Okay. So let's just look at, so these are for manifestors, is the different ways that energy, this is one, there's one other slide, how the motors can get to the throat, right? So this is where the emotional solar plexus is going directly to the throat, okay? The will here is going directly to the throat. Now the root can only get to the throat this way, or up through the spleen. Okay, so the root can come here. If it goes here, it's going to end up going through the emotional solar plexus, and it cannot go through the sacral. Okay, so it's going to come through the spleen, which is what makes a splenic manifester. And then it can also come up here and go through the G. It's a little less common because you can see how many more different channels you have to have in order for that to happen. You can also have a will center that comes up through the G and then comes up through any of these channels. Okay, this is just meant to give you examples, but any of these channels could work. Okay, but it's the idea is it can come through. Now the thing is that when the energy comes from a motor and it's going through another center before it gets to the throat, like going here through the spleen or through the spleen and the G, or going from the will through the G, there's two things that are going to happen. One is that you're going to pick up the energy of that other center, that non-motorized center. So this is the spleen, right? And the spleen is this, and I'll talk more about this. Actually, I'm going to go through this other thing. I'm going to talk more about it, but just know it's going to pick up some of the qualities of the spleen, or here you're going to pick up some of the qualities of the G, or here pick up some of the qualities of the G, right? And so I imagine that what Moni was saying was that she's got her, the will center here connected to the G center, but not connected to the throat. Okay. So that she's got the will connected to her identity. All right, great. So, great. So let's move on. I'm not going to get distracted by the comments right now, but I am going to come back to them a little bit later. All right, so I want to talk about some general superpowers of manifestors. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about more specifics, because manifestors, their superpowers can be pretty different depending on how they're defined. So manifestors are the only type that are designed to initiate. And isn't that crazy, right? They're 8 to 9% of the population, and we've all been taught to initiate. If you've listened to any of the other trainings that I've done, webinars I've done, I've talked about that, and how we as generators, for example, or projectors, really have to unwind our conditioning around initiating and learning how to connect with our inner wisdom and our inner guidance in different ways. But for manifestors, they are the ones who can, because they've got, if you think about it this way, they've got that engine to the throat. So they've got an impulse, let's say, in their will center, right? And so they've got this impulse that comes in. It's partly their creativity or their emotions, and it's partly their creativity. And they can go ahead and initiate. They have manifesting power to make things happen, okay? They create waves. I always love this explanation in the story of human design about how the types work together, right? Is that the manifestors, and Ra really focused on the auras of the different types. And he said that the manifestors have this kind of almost like bristly type of aura, and like you can't really penetrate it. It's a little bit impermeable, and it also has this kind of forward thrusting energy, and it's like repelling. I think that's the word he used to say. It was repelling. And the reason for that was that manifestors were designed to initiate, and so they would repel other people's objections or other people's comments, or their desire to control them or stop them. But the purpose of it is to create waves that then generators, in particular pure generators, manifesting generators, get to respond to, because we're designed to respond, right? And so they are here to create these waves with this big, I don't know if I want to call it repelling, that sounds so kind of negative, but forceful type of aura. Certainly the man I was involved with before had a very forceful type of aura. And so it was something that would give us the ability to respond. Many of the great leaders in the past have been manifestors. That this is really in the old paradigm. And again, this is something Ra used to talk about a lot, is that like Napoleons or Hitlers, dictators, kind of the kings and queens of the past tended to be the ones who were successful, tended to be manifestors. Because they were the ones who could like command and who could initiate and had the power to make things happen and to give direction, but they're not the ones to do the work, so that they would gather or coerce or subordinate the generators who are here to build and to get us to do their will. So that's a interesting kind of negative, but plausible, in my view, way of thinking about manifestors. And they're definitely here to get things started. They're definitely here to be the ones to initiate, to get things started, but they're not here to do the work. Okay. But knowing this about manifestors, if you have manifestors in your life, it's great to give them the opportunity to do this. The strategy for manifestors, and Ra used to say this isn't really, it's not really a strategy the way the strategy to respond or to be invited is for the other types. But he learned, being an ego manifestor himself, that when he just moved forward with initiating what he wanted, or if he got an idea and he just did whatever he wanted, that sometimes the people in his life had a hard time with that. And so he, and I think he kind of started from when he was a kid, and then, found it with different people in his life. Okay. So he came up with the strategy, which is to inform. So the thing I like to say is to let the people in your impact field, the people who are going to be impacted by your decisions, know. And it's not that you have to ask permission, but being a person, one of the things I believe sovereignty is about, is not just about being a manifestor, right? Just going off and doing whatever you want, whenever you want to. But sovereignty, a more evolved understanding of the sovereignty, is our ability to be in the world with other people and to communicate with other people and to have a way to communicate that works for everyone. And part of that is being aware of when the things that we do are going to impact other people, and to see, for them, is this a good time? Does this make sense to you? Do you have any input on this? Again, it's not about asking permission, but it is about acknowledging that if you're in a partnership with someone, whether that's a love partnership or a business partnership, or your landmates and work, live on land together, whatever your relationship is, that if they are in your inner circle, then it's beneficial for everyone to communicate and not simply take action without doing that. Okay. So as I said before, some of the superpowers for manifestors vary depending on what motors they have to the throat. So let's just take a look at a few examples. So this is an ego manifestor. And this person has, you can see here is the ego center, or the will center, going directly to the throat. And this is going through what we call the money line. And it's going from the, this is the king or queen gate in the kind of old paradigm. And so I think ego manifestors were kind of the pinnacle of what I was just talking about the dictator, the king or queen, that kind of sovereign, the kind of old version of sovereignty. And so it's coming right through here. So this person is also going to have ideas coming in, and is also going to be having direct downloads through the knowing circuit, through the 61 and the 4323. So this person is not just going to be getting impulses that are coming from the will center. They're also going to be getting guidance coming in through that channel, which is part of the knowing, or the Gnostics circle. And that is a circuit, and that's going to lead them to have information that's coming in that is another form of intuition for them. So for this person, if I was doing a reading for this person, I would say, yeah, sure, you want to feel what those creative impulses are that are coming from the will center. And you are going to have a lot of energy coming in that way. But I would also learn to cultivate your relationship to receive that information that's coming in through your through your knowing circuit. Because that is also, it's going directly into your throat, and it's going to want expression as well. So I would say to this ego manifestor and I say this to manifestors anyway, and manifesting generators, is to see if you can just slow down a little bit, because So a person with this design could want to act very, very quickly. So just slow down a little bit and see what other kinds of information you're receiving in order to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of your different attributes. You'll notice also that this particular manifestor has none of the other motors defined. So this person's really going to need to pay attention to take care of their energy and make sure that they rest so that they don't overdo it. Here we have an emotional manifestor. So it's connecting the emotional solar plexus directly to the throat. And so this person, anytime the emotional solar plexus is defined, that means this person needs to take time to make decisions, needs to take time to act. And they may feel some urgency simply because they do have three of the motors defined, all of the ones that you can have defined if you're a manifestor. And so there's going to be a tremendous amount of energy that's operating, but you'll see this person also has a split definition. So these centers are all connected, and these two are connected, but they're not actually connected to each other. And so this person might have a little bit of a challenge not quite knowing how to get those energies hooked up. But I would say with this person, it's ideal if they definitely take some time to feel what is true for them. And they can tap into their intuition. They've got quite a bit of definition over here in the spleen. But they also have, through having all of those gates defined, they can also tap into instinct, which is connected to fear. So even though this person is technically an emotional manifestor, they're going to have a lot of intuitive hits over here. So again, I would encourage them to take some time to really feel into both their emotions, check in with their emotional wave, but then also to feel what kind of intuitive hits might be coming to them through the spleen, but making sure that they're pulling any fear pictures that they might have out of that. Here we have someone who is an ego emotional manifestor. So this person has got a lot of energy going to the throat. So you've got two motors going to the throat, plus you've got two channels coming out of the ajna. Okay, so this is my client that I was telling you about earlier. And so she has a huge amount of ability to create and to make things happen, like enormous. And she has created an awful lot in her life. And part of what is important for her is to tap into the emotional quality and to slow down a little bit to really feel into what feels right to her. Because she can have so many ideas and so many downloads coming in, both through both of these channels, that she's got the gate of ideas, she's got the genius gate. There's a lot coming in this way. Plus she's got a lot of energy kind of pushing her to move forward, coming from both of these motors. And so my advice to her was to take some time to really feel into what is right for her and to allow this knowing that's coming in through the knowing circuit, because she's got more of the knowing circuit in her chart also, to allow that to come in and inform her. And in order to be able to do that, she's going to have to slow down a little bit and not work so hard, because she's a person who habitually works. Okay, and here we have a splenic manifester. So this is someone who has the root defined. The energy is coming up through the root and into the throat. And so this person, someone with this configuration, has kind of the least amount of manifesting energy of any of the ways that this can work. Because it's traveling a long way. You can see how far the root is, a long way from the throat, right? And it either has to go through one or two other centers to get there. So, and it's just a really long way up here. So for this person, one of the things I counseled her around was to make sure that she's really getting enough exercise, and also that she was getting enough alone time so that she was allowing other people's energy to drain out of her system, because she's got those 5 open centers, and all of the other motors are open. And so she could easily be in the habit of being around other people and picking up those motor energies and amplifying them, which is great in the short term, but over time, especially if you start to rely on it, it can really burn you out. All right, so that's just some examples of how manifestors are designed and how they have different superpowers depending um, on how they're defined, right? And this person, like I said, really needs to feel that on-off pulse of the root, but she's going to have a lot of intuition. Okay. The other thing she's going to have is she's got all this heart energy coming up, heart and identity and direction coming up from her G center. And so this is going to be a real superpower for her as well. So this, you're starting to be able to see, particularly if you've been on a few of these, where yes, your type, and especially for generators, I think your type really hugely defines you. And other things definitely impact, so don't get me wrong about that. But for a lot of the other ones, there's more nuances, and you have to look other places to see where the superpowers are. And that's why I created a whole course on it, because it really helps you to then be able to look at more of these nuances. Okay, so the most vital questions for manifestors, and that you can have if you have manifestors in your life, so these are questions that you can have for them, is how and where can I best use my energy? Because they can get a little all over the place if their energy is really kind of really strong and they're not grabbing a hold of it and deciding how to direct it. Okay. Where is my inner wisdom directing me? So you saw we had the inner wisdom coming from a few different places, whether that was from the will or the emotional solar plexus, or from the spleen, or from the G center, or technically from the root also. Like, or if you have those defined channels coming in from the ajna, right? So there's a lot of different impulses that can come in. See, like for us who are generators, we have our sacral. We can always get responses, right? And so that is a huge superpower for us as generators. Other types don't have that kind of instant response, right? And so then it's more nuanced in terms of being able to look at where are your superpowers, and learning to determine what your inner wisdom is, depending on your type, for projectors and for manifestors, and to a degree for reflectors also, is super, super important. So one of the things for manifestors is they can create huge impacts. Okay. They can initiate and they can create a lot of impact. They have big auras. They're designed to create waves. And so it's important that they are able to harness that energy. And the best way to do that is like, what am I most excited about, right? What am I most excited about? And where can I commit myself and commit my energy? Like a manifestor who doesn't have, life work that's connected to their life purpose can be a sad person, because they've got all of this manifesting energy and they've got all this power, and yet they're not harnessing it and directing it in a way that's really satisfying for them. So how do you know? If you're angry. So a lot of manifestors can be angry either because other people are trying to control them and get them to stop doing what they're doing because they think that they're being too forceful, or if they've internalized this idea that they're too strong and they're too annoying and they're going to run over people, which they can do. And if people taught them that as a kid and didn't help them learn how to harness that energy and how to direct it, then they can be holding themselves back without anybody in their outer reality doing it now. So, but that can make for a very angry person. So if you're a manifestor or you love a manifestor, check out if they're angry or if they're resentful. They don't tend to be frustrated so much. I mean, manifesting generators can be. That's a kind of a generator thing. But if they're just, it's pent up energy. Think about it, right? And so the antidote to that is to look at what can I be most excited about and what can I really commit myself to, right? How can I do that? How can I pull together my superpowers and direct it and do what I came here to do and create the impact that I came here to create? Now, you do need to inform. So I have on here, am I informing my inner circle, right? Because that is one way that you will mitigate people getting annoyed with you, because you take all that power and just go and do something with it, right? You can see how that might work. So informing your inner circle, making sure you're resting enough, because depending on your age and depending on the rest of your definition, just like I was showing here, you do want to make sure that you're building in rest before you're exhausted. Because I think a lot of manifestors get to the point where they're just freaking exhausted. And then, am I being patient? Because it's not always the right time. Just because you get an inner impulse doesn't necessarily mean it's the right time. And that's where you need to learn to develop that connection with your inner wisdom to be able to tell if it's the right time. Okay, so let me tell you just a little bit more about Activate Your Superpowers. So the topics that we're going to cover, the things that you're going to receive as a result of these topics, it's 10 classes. So foolproof decision making. Every type has a way of doing that. Most people don't know how to do it effectively. Even if you're a generator, you know, I've done hundreds of readings with people now, and it's rare that I meet somebody who really knows how to utilize their superpowers to create foolproof decision making, but it's absolutely possible. How to work with spirit for your highest good. Okay, because we're all designed to dance with spirit in different ways depending on our types. And so we want to learn how to do that. It's one of the ways we discern right timing. And timing is everything. You can have the best idea or the best project in the world, or want to get into a relationship, or want to start a business, or want to move somewhere or something like that. And if you don't do it at the right time, even if it's the right thing to do, it can totally screw you up. So you do want to learn how to dance with spirit for your own highest good. Understanding your power and your core energies. I find this to be absolutely critical for people, because we're constantly sending out energetic messages, but we're not necessarily aware of what they are. And that really impacts both our ways of all of our relationships, whether that's with our beloveds, our families, or whether it's with our clients, or if it's in our businesses, wherever it is. So learning what your power and your core energies are and creating a harmonious relationship with them so that they can be superpowers for you, rather than you sending out dissonant messages energetically that will make people want to move away from you, even though maybe what it is that you're offering is really great. You'll learn to really discern your gifts and talents, which is, you know, your human design chart is an incredible map to your gifts and talents. Also, your life purpose. A lot of people come to me for readings wanting to know their life purpose. Your character. So if your type is the role that you play in life, then your profile is your character. It's kind of who you are. So you'll learn about your character. And you'll also learn about your primary orientation to life through understanding your circuits. This is really potent, understanding circuitry. I changed my whole relationship to myself when I came to understand my circuitry. And so, and I realized this was my primary orientation to life, and I was fighting it half the time because I thought there was something wrong with it. And when I learned it and I embraced it, I've actually amplified it. It's become a huge superpower for me that I didn't know, because my conditioning was really kind of screwing me up. And then what this course will do is it'll give you enough information definitely to be able to read your own chart in a new way. But also, if you have clients or you have students, or if you just want to geek out a bit, it can help you to read the charts of other people in your life. It's not going to give you what a specialist training is going to give you, but it would definitely give you enough to know how to work with the charts of clients in a beginning type of way. So it's 10 classes. The way that it's delivered is through video training. So there's videos and then there's audios of the lessons. you get the slides, and then there's a worksheet for 8 out of the 10 classes. There's a worksheet. So every week you get one of the lessons and you get the worksheet. And then I'm doing laser coaching sessions once a month between now and the end of the year. So you can bring your questions, you can bring the things that you're confused about, you can bring challenges that you're having in your life that you want to have some coaching around, and you want to know how human design and understanding your human design can help you to meet some of the challenges that you have. Nothing is off the table. You can bring anything that you want to those laser coaching sessions. And I know that even though these are delivered every week, people will do them at their own pace. Like, you may go on vacation, you may move, you may have other things going on in your life. You may be navigating having your kids at home and, school, learning how to do distance schooling, whatever it is. So that's why I'm going to be doing these sessions throughout the rest of the year, so that you have plenty of time to be doing the lessons and then be getting the coaching and the support that you need to actually integrate these into your life and make it really real for you in your life. The other thing I want to say about this, and this is new, and I haven't quite decided when it's going to be, but I'm going to start building in, for all of my clients and students, is once a month doing something. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but it's something like upgrade your frequency days, where we're going to really be working with our frequencies and our energetics, and we'll do that in a variety of different ways, on the body level, somatically, with breathing and movement, and that type of thing, and mindset. And so that is something that you'll just get as a bonus coming in through this class. So use the code SAVE200 to take $200 off through next Sunday. And I did offer this before, and there were 5 people who would get a reading with me, but so I have a slot for one more person. So do go ahead and register, and you'll get a chance to be another person if that's something that you'd like to get a 15-minute reading with me. All right, let me just make sure. I'm going to go ahead and close the chat. No, close the slide. Okay, there we are. And let me just put this in here again. And if you have any questions, just email me. And then it's save 200. Okay, for the $200 off. Yeah. And so go ahead. I see that there are some questions in here. Go ahead and put your questions either in the chat or in the comments over here on Facebook, and we'll start going through those now. All right. Let's see here. I need my glasses. All right. All right. Great. What would be important to remember for an emotional solar plexus manifestor in parenting a manifesting generator teenager who is often feeling anxious and angry and stressed with everything? Ooh, Sherry. Okay. I might need a little more information about that. But let's see. So let's just talk about it from a human design. Actually, before we go to a human design point of view, let me just say that, teens right now are kind of feeling anxious. What did you say? Anxious and angry and stressed. Teens are feeling that way, a lot of them. I have an 18-year-old, almost 19-year-old. And what Sam has told me, the way that Sam, my kid, has described this is they've said Gen Z kids have accepted that we're going to die early because the planet has been destroyed by sometimes people like you, the baby boomers. That was going on long before baby boomers came around. And so we've accepted that. Now, that's a pretty dark vision, right? But I think that there is some of that, right? There is some lack of faith in the future that our teens have. And so I don't know if there's something that your teen can get involved in. Um, I don't know if your teen is a he or a she or an NB, but um, if your teen can something that they can get connected to that's meaningful for them. Like my kid has gotten really involved in K-pop. And K-pop is very interesting, particularly with the top people in K-pop, because they also have a social consciousness and they also come from another culture. So, that's one thing for any manifester is, like I was saying before, is you've got all this energy. And I think you said your kid has both, right, is an emotional, no, it's just an emotional solar plexus. Okay. So one thing is to teach your kid about their wave. Okay. Um, because they're going to have a wave, right? Or Sherry, are you aware of that? And so to teach them that sometimes they're going to be more up and sometimes they're going to be more down. So just to teach them about that part. Um, and and then maybe you could give me a little more information. Oh no, you're the emotional solar plexus. Oh, okay. And so you've got a manifesting generator teenager. Okay, so she's become a vegetarian due to her vision to rid animal cruelty, but her diet is not healthy for her. Yeah, well, it's not that easy to be a healthy vegetarian, but people do it. And so, I don't know if you can support her to be doing research about how to be a healthy vegetarian. There's certainly plenty of information out there about how to do it now. So that's one thing that I can say. I mean, I was a macrobiotic vegan for 8 years, and I got very, very healthy on it. But you have to learn how to do it. Like you can't just have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like I don't know what she's doing, but yeah. So she's a manifesting generator. So she's gonna be. Can a manifestor tell her, well, you know what, more than other types? But I would also be careful because she's a teenager. So if you can, you could potentially even initiate getting her some information, whether that's finding a high quality website that has good information on it, or there's a woman named Julie Daniluk, who's Canadian. Oh shoot. You know what? I realize I'm actually not sending out my information to everybody. Okay. So here's Julie Daniluk. And she's got some great cookbooks and she knows a lot about nutrition. She's Canadian. Um, so I would highly recommend that you check her out, but there's lots of good resources now. Okay, sorry, there's the there's the thing for the course. Right? So that's something you can do because you can initiate. So I would think about that. Have you tried that, Sherry? Okay, I'm going to go on to another question. Go ahead. If anybody else has questions, go ahead. Now's your time to pop them in. Okay, so what can I elaborate what I mean by creating waves? Just wanted to make sure I'm understanding what you mean by it. What is an example? Great. So manifestors have the ability to come up with an idea that um, so I'll just give you an example. So with this last man who I was in, well, no, actually I have another manifestor friend. So I have another manifestor friend who is a naturalist, and he had an idea when he was young to do adventure travel. And he initially was doing it around town, but because he had this vision, he was able to get on. He started writing. He was able to get on radio stations. He was able to write articles. And over time, he developed a very lucrative, highly successful adventure travel business that has impacted thousands of people in doing both in terms of the education that he's provided. People really listen to the message that he has to share. They trust him as an information source. And so he's sought after as an information source. And then they also gather to take his trips. And his trips are like, $10,000, $15,000 to go to Kenya or Tanzania or to Ecuador, wherever he's going. And he's booked out like a couple of years in advance. So that's somebody who had an idea and stuck with it and built it. And he really pretty much did it on his own. I mean, at one point I said, do you have a team? He goes, nah, I like doing it all myself, which can be a downfall for a manifestor. It's better if they have a team, but he managed to do it. And he's an emotional manifestor. And then I have another manifestor friend who got an idea for an area regarding health. And he went and researched a book, and that book became enormously impactful. And he's become like the world leading expert around that topic, and is highly sought after as a keynote speaker. And he's built a large nonprofit, and really has made a huge impact in the world. So that's kind of what I mean by waves, right? It's like the ability to make things happen and also to draw people to your cause, right? Draw people to your cause. It's like having that kind of leadership. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Yeah, Sherry, you need her to have so upset and stressed. Well, here's the thing. I mean, do you know why she's so upset and stressed? Does she tell you? Does she talk to you? Or does she just keep it all to herself? Does she have a therapist? Therapists can be really good. And I also, when I hear things like that, she's a manifesting generator. Is she getting enough exercise? She should be exercising a lot, because if not, that energy can build up inside of her, and she's got to have somewhere for all that energy to go. So those are just a couple of things I would say. All right. So Robin says, what if a generator that disagrees initially with everything you inform on, but what if you have a generator that disagrees initially with everything you inform on as a manifestor? Well, so here's the thing. Oh my goodness. What's going on over here? Sorry, I need to go over to Facebook in a minute. Let me answer this question. Well, Robin, I guess it depends on what role that person plays in your life. Maybe you could give me a little more information, because here's the thing. People aren't always going to agree, and you just have to decide whether or not you want to modify so a life partner. Okay. So then how important is it, and how big of a deal is it? And because manifestors do not do well if they feel like they're being controlled by the people in their lives. They do not do well, and they will get angry and resentful. Okay. Like that's not, it's not good, but informing is still good, because then you can be like, okay. And you can say, and can we agree to disagree? It's not necessarily my role as your life partner to just do what you want me to do. It's my role to let you know. And if I feel in my heart of hearts, and if I feel with my inner wisdom that this is really the right thing for me to do, then it is the right thing for you to do. But I would say that to anybody. I would say that to two generators who are talking to each other, right? I mean, if you get really, really clear about what your inner wisdom is telling you, and you're really, really clear that this is the right time, and your partner is like, wow, I really don't want that, or I really don't want that to happen, then, you know, you have to like keep exploring what the navigating is. But I can tell you, if a manifestor feels controlled, they're going to get angry and it's not going to go well. But the question is there another solution? Is there something else that can happen that's different than the thing that you think needs to happen, or the thing that you believe you're committed to as a manifestor? Because the thing is, and especially, do you have your head and ajna defined? Because if you have your head and ajna defined, manifestors like that can get really super tunnel vision, and that's not ultimately good for them either. Okay, so what are you saying? Yeah, it's a big deal. So for me to just let it go and keep informing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we no, head and ajna. Okay. I mean, we all, for any of us, we have to, like, what do you want to say? Pick our fights, right? We have to pick our fights. We have to see where negotiation is possible. We have to see if waiting a little while to see if some other solution arises. Since I don't know the specifics of your situation, I can't say any more than that. Okay. Can a splenic projector give advice to an emotional manifestor? If you're asked for it, right? If you're asked for it, or if you say, if the splenic projector says, I have something I'd like to share with you, is that okay? So that's the thing. But sure, it's not like you can't give it. You know, the thing is the manifestor has to be in a certain mood to receive advice, and the projector needs to know that the manifestor is listening. Like if the emotional manifestor is not in a mood to receive advice, actually for anybody, projector is not in the mood to receive advice, don't give advice. Don't do it, because they're not going to hear you and they're probably going to get mad at you. So don't bother. But if they're receptive, if they're like, yeah, I'm open to hearing your advice, then why not? Okay, I'm going to go over here to, oh, I know why it did that. It's because it made it the whole thing. All right, so any of you there on Facebook have any comments or questions? Now is the time, because we are about to wrap up. Okay, here we go. This will work. Okay, that one should work. Wait, why is it not? Sorry, I'm having a problem with my URL here. Oh, I know what it is. See, I really should not do this myself. There you go. All right. All right. I think we are good. Any other questions? And I would love to hear from you about what you got out of today. Okay, this is still saying the page isn't found. I don't know what's going on. Just look in your email. I'll be emailing it out. All right. Sorry. Technical difficulties. All right. Yeah, just pop in the chat. What did you get out of today? And then we're going to wrap up. Yeah. Okay. What does mental illness, how does mental illness fit into the authority and strategies of manifestors, or any type? With OCD or other mental illnesses, for example, does the authority strategy still apply? Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Strategy and authority can be a way out of mental illness. Or thing is if somebody has a lot of anxiety, So my kid had Lyme disease and Bartonella and had a huge amount of anxiety. Fortunately, that is changing. So you have to find out what the source of the anxiety is, if you can, if there is. Like, we didn't know what the source of my kid's anxiety was for years. But I always said, you know, what does your inner wisdom say? What does your body say about what it wants? I've said that to my kid forever. It's a generator. What does your body want? What does your body say it wants? So it's really good if somebody has a lot of anxiety to be able to get into their body, because they're not going to be in their body. They're going to be all up here going like, right? So how can you help somebody get in their body? Because the inner wisdom in human design comes from the body. It doesn't come from the mind. We don't make decisions with our minds. We make decisions with our bodies, which is informed by spirit. So mental illness needs to be addressed as a mental illness, but it doesn't negate strategy and authority. It might cloud it, right? It might be hard to feel it, because if you're all stuck in your head, it's hard to feel your body. It's hard to feel the messages from spirit. And so it's like, how can you help someone get more embodied? That's why I said, is she exercising, right? Exercise can really help, because it can really help you get in the body. Is she having enough time in nature, or is she just on devices all the time? So those are some of the things that you want to look at, right? And then also, where did the OCD come from? You know, and how can it be managed? Like, my house cleaner has OCD. She has found a great profession for herself. She's a wonderful, incredible house cleaner. She, even when I first met her, she's like, look, I have OCD. Makes me a great house cleaner. And I was like, and it's so true. Like, she just, you know, like, I don't know. She hasn't done human design with me, so I don't know how that works. But I think that it would never not apply. The question is whether somebody can actually feel it or not. Okay. I hope that makes sense. All right, good. That's so helpful. Okay, good. Okay, good. So understanding my design better helps me understand my responses to other designs, of which I have all in my circle, except a reflector, which most of us do, and how I can adapt and honor their design while still honoring mine. Exactly. And to me, that's what sovereignty is all about. Sovereignty is about, how do we honor ourselves while being in relationship with other people, honor their designs, and honor their desires and wishes as much as we can. But the truth is we can't all the time. And that's just how life is. So, all right, dears, many blessings, much love. We're going to do reflector superpowers next time. And then we're going to move on from here and start a different series. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now.